Hey, welcome back to Guns and Logic. Today we're going to go over some of the basics of a AR-15, and within this discussion, and we'll see what other videos come about as well. But um, in this conversation, I believe is going to be a lot of the reasons why that expanding certain background checks or expanding any type of legislation in that regard, I don't think is going to make a difference. And just as we kind of look at the components of an AR-15, I believe that's going to be more evident. So just like before, I got no magazine in it. I'm going to take the charging handle, push it back, make sure nothing comes out, check it inside, and it's an unloaded AR-15. This particular one is in 300 blackout, and I'll go into more about different calibers here in a minute. But just a couple of components is we have this part right here, and you can kind of see the outline heel and the outline on the pistol grip. This outline heel underneath minus the trigger, because the trigger is a different component where the magazine goes in, all of that is called the lower receiver. Then we have an upper receiver, which is primarily, this part heel being the upper receiver. Then we have the barrel, and in this case, I have a free float handrail, which just means basically that the handrail isn't touching the barrel. And then the muzzle. And then a stock. Inside the stock is a buffle tube where the charging handle goes into. There is some new stuff nowadays that, depending on the type of round, with a bigger caliber gun, it's popular that you're going to have some type of buffle tube. That's where the charging handle goes into, and then the pin's going to hit the bullet, and hence charging handle. But there's also, if you would have an AI9, let's say, you technically wouldn't necessarily need a buffle tube. It's actually going to be like I talked about in the last video with striker file. They can actually have a striker file within it, which then kind of opens up more options for the stock, that you can have a folding stock of some kind, even though there are some attachments that with a buffle tube you can still fold it. But jury's still, for me at least, kind of jury's still out whether or not I would do that with the buffle tube. I like the idea, but I'd rather have a gun that's maybe more designed for a sliding stock than trying to makeshift an AR-15 into doing it. But those are the type of striker file systems for it that don't necessarily use a buffle tube. But my point being is that the gun technology and guns advancement is still increasing. But now, here is what I would say kind of the funny part about buying AR-15s, and why, just because if you have more legality around the background check, isn't necessarily going to deter someone. So this right here, the upper receiver, then has the charging handle, and out comes what's known as the bolt carrier group. And what's actually funny about an AR-15 is the bolt carrier group that's inside, which is going to be what strikes the bullet, and then also the barrel are going to be the main reasons as to why an AR-15 fires a particular caliber. So you can interchange. If you interchange this part, then this heel being the lower receiver, minus the stock. Ignore the stock for a second, ignore the trigger because the trigger can just come out, especially if you have like a drop trigger of some kind. So, what I was showing you before with this layout right here, like I said, minus the trigger, this. When you go and get a background check, this is technically the only piece that is serialized. This is the only piece that's being background checked on. Now you can go to a gun store and see a completed AR on the shelf, and that's how you'll buy it. But you can also find just these sold, and that makes it so that you can attach any up or receiver. Everything else on the AR-15 minus this, if I go into a store, I'd have to wait on a background check for this. Everything else that you see with an AR, this, the buffle tube, the barrel, the charging group, the handle, all of this, I can get sent directly to my house. So now, when it comes to, and this is where the controversy of ghost guns come into play, is that there are websites that can sell an 80% receiver, meaning that the holes on this receiver, because I now like the safety selector switch, and you have the bolt and the mag release, plus the inside where the magazine goes and where the trigger goes here. Now, granted, I'm a little out of my depths. I never messed or felt a 80% receiver, but it shows up in this design. But you have to, as the name implies, you have to finish the last 20% of the gun, which usually requires like a milling tool, some drills, but it does require some precision in that regard because you do want your stuff to function properly. But it's also not serialized because according to the ATF, it's a piece of metal that's being sent directly to your house. So essentially, you can have every single part of an AR-15 sent directly to your house. You would just have to finish the last 20%, which, like I said, only this is what's becoming background checked or is background checked. I can have everything else sent directly to me, and that would be fine. So now, put it out into a legal sense. If I was an ex-con of anyway, I can still have all of this sent to my house. There's no, unless I was on parole or there was some type of like check-in or house inspection that I had to have. Of course, if law enforcement stumbles upon it, then okay, then it's illegal for you to, it's illegal for a felon to possess a firearm or ammunition. Like I said in my past video, that might, black powder might be the exception if I remember correctly, but nonetheless, any of this can still be sent directly to anyone's house. So, and when it comes to, I have to look up. I don't live in one of the, I think, 8 states that actually has some ghost gun restrictions or keeps them from shipping to those states. But I also know there was some loopholes as far as, okay, it was illegal to sell the 80% receivable plus the what's called a jig, which helps you in that precision finish the AR lower receivable. That so long as you didn't sell those two components together, then okay, you sold the 80% receivable separately, and then you buy the manual separately, can still all be sent to your door. But like I said, there are some states that are stricter. I encourage anyone, look up your state laws before you just go and do stuff. But nonetheless, in most states, all of this is can be sent directly to your house. In this particular case, this is a 300 blackout. I had I did the math at one point. This lower receiver only cost me $50, and I got background checked and everything. So I guess background check, I guess $75 at the end of the day, including the price of the background check. But $50 plus 75 plus the $25. And then as I was looking into ghost guns, because I do like um, metal walking, I'm getting more into that type of stuff as it is with lathe machine and having a drill press. But 80% receiver I think cost like $180, and that was just for the part. That didn't necessarily include the jig or anything. And I didn't really search too hard, but then I was like, well, shoot, I want to build a gun. I don't want to overspend when I can just get a part legally. I can get this part for $50 and take it home and know that it's going to be in working order. Everything else, though, I bought from Palmetto Armory and actually put in the trigger system, attached the pistol grip, attached the buffle tube, which then attached the collapsible stock onto. And then this um, I got the upper receiver um, totally just pre-made, so I didn't actually construct any of it, um, but nonetheless, this is how it came just in the mail to my house. Is everything that I needed to construct a gun, essentially. So that being said, as we talked about in the intro video, in the extremes of different legislation options, that even if you were to put some type of restrictions as to, okay, even if it took me 6 months, let's say if I did a background check and you made it a law that made it 6 months before I got the gun, something outrageous. If I really wanted something quick enough, I would just buy an 80% receiver and have it all sent to my house within a couple weeks, and it would be untraceable. And the fact that also people who can't own it have that same ability to buy and have stuff sent directly to the house. And like I said, that sort of depends on whether or not um, ex I don't know what the correct ex-cons, felons, ex-felons, people that just came out of prison who aren't allowed to own guns, depending on the type of supervision they're under, if those credit card checks or so on and so forth. But the main point is that stuff unchecked can just get sent to your house and totally legal. That's a lot of the gun market with the AR-15, and what makes the AR-15 so appealing is that this lower receiver, I can change out what type of caliber that I want, to where I can, as of now, like I said, this was a 300. It's set up that this is a 300 blackout upper receiver. But I also have two other ARs that fire 224 Valkyrie, and the other one I did some customizations to a Rugal 556, and got a customize a little bit more of a better stock. In fact, this is the old stock of the AR, the Rugal 556. It was just a little, you can kind of hear it. It's a little flimsy, but for the sake of this, used to be a 300 blackout pistol. But to be honest, I didn't want to deal with the law when it comes to what the ATF was trying to do with banning the pistol braces. So I opted and got a longer barrel and attached the stock to it. So, which is funny, talking about AR pistols real quick. If you take away, and this is what take away the stock, because an AR pistol is not allowed to have a stock, but it can, as of now, because one of the courts, I believe in Texas, challenged the ATF rule about the pistol braces. So as of now, if you buy what's a pistol brace that goes onto the buffle tube, you can have a barrel that's now below 16 inches. And so if you have a barrel below 16 inches plus a pistol brace is technically called an AR pistol. And to go a step further, what the ATF does have a law, because the ATF was trying to make it so that it became that an AR pistol was essentially a short barreled rifle, because the pistol braces were being used as a shoulder brace, which is not the so-called intention. Like, this is meant to be attached to the to brace against the shoulder. The pistol braces will be in charge, essentially, that people will doing the same thing with it. So the ATF wanted to put it under a short barreled rifle, and a short barrel rifle it has the stock and everything that's designed to go on the shoulder, but the barrel is less than 16 inches, and then you would have to register with the ATF and pay the $200 tax in order to have what's called a short barreled rifle. But as with many things, with many loopholes, people found a walk around to have a short barreled rifle by having an AR pistol. The stock was a pistol brace, and whether or not it can be collapsible, off the top of my head, I think there was some collapsible versions of a pistol stock. But like I said, I kind of opted to convert my 300 blackout pistol to a more of a longer rifle, just because then a little bit more hunting legal, as you might say, just because in order to hunt, you do have to have, it has to be a certain caliber, and it has to be a certain length of barrel. And of course, those magazine restrictions when you hunt, but you can always buy a plug for a magazine, or just a smaller magazine for it. But the that's what I wanted to get out of this video, is to, I just think there's a misconception out there when it comes to AR-15, just in a broad sense, that it being connected and all together, but when you actually strip it all down and into its parts, what actually is background checked and what is not background checked, I think is eye-opening, especially the amount of stuff that you can have sent directly to your door without there being any type of regulation. Like I said, as far as I know, in the states that I've lived at, there hasn't really been much of a law against ghost guns. Besides, I think the bipartisan um, bill that happened last year, that sort of restricted the 80% receivables being attached to jigs. But I'd have to, like I said, do your own research. I'm not here trying to just spout out facts, but I am trying to get people to think, is the main goal here. So, and speaking of the legislation, by having this, and having the stuff sent directly to my house, what I find interesting is that people who are not allowed by law to own it can still, like I said, there's still a means for people to get it. And I do believe that if someone wants to do it, if they have a game plan in place that they are going to cause harm in some capacity, breaking the minor law isn't going to deter them from the major crime that I believe they're about to commit. Just, I know I picked on the Unabomber a little bit back in a previous video, but you can make the same determination there that it's illegal to send bombs through the mail. And what did he do? He bought supplies, clearly, because there was a multi-decade manhunt for him. So obviously, whatever he was able to buy was legal. He constructed it and then sent it, and then created bombs that was his intention, to create bombs. And then the FBI were the one that called him the Unabomber, University and Airport Bomber. That's what those two are combined. So he there was essentially a will, there's a way, basically, is that's what he wanted to do, and he bought whatever he needed to buy and then sent it, and that's what he did. So having the current laws as they are, um, just thinking out loud here that okay, it's already illegal for a felon to own a firearm or maybe someone who's mentally unstable. But once they go through the route, let's say they buy an 80% receivable, construct it, have everything sent. Now, bam, they have an AR-15 in whichever caliber they decided. The only way that they're going to get found with that AR-15 is that they'll stop for some other probable cause reason. If they decided, if you decide to, drive, or if you're a sovereign citizen, travel. But if you decide to drive, um, and you have your firearm in the car, cop sees it, you're not allowed to have it. Um, you get pulled over for speeding. Bam, probable cause. If they see it, or if you get found with drugs, or if you get found in an area, let's say that you are in a no firearm area, concealed carrying when you shouldn't be, in a no handgun zone or no firearm zone, and a cop sees that you're printing being the sign of you can see the gun underneath the clothing, basically. Like you can kind of see what's called printing is that you can see the imprint of a gun through the clothing. And well, that gives the cop probable cause right then and there to look and to see whether or not, one, you're breaking the law for having a firearm in that area, but then it's also okay, now they're going to check whether or not you're allowed to have a firearm to begin with. So the idea that even if you did, let's say now to the extreme that I brought up in the intro, you're going to just get rid of everything. The only way I think that law enforcement is going to be able to find it, minus looking at any type of credit card history, but then if you pay for cash, then what? Is that the only way that law enforcement as of now is going to see it without actually having a warrant or a designation like, hey, go to that person's house and search it for firearms. There's no probable cause for that, like I said, unless there's some type of tapping, credit card history. There's just have to be a lot more. There'd have to be a little bit of an investigation before it just went, hey, I think that person has a gun. Bam, let's go check it. And of course, there's going to be some, different states are going to vary and circumstances are going to vary as well. But um, point being, in this AR video, you can have all the parts sent directly to your house. So I hope this was informative, and this is going to be a stepping stone for other videos as we get into AR-15s and just the fact that AR-15 can be adaptable and change calibers as needed. It's a very friendly. It's for those that want customization for diversity, I think is the word I was looking for. AR-15, there's so much you can do with the technology and just where the gun market is now with it. But like I said, I hope this kind of puts away any myths and sheds a light on what actually gets background checked. And it's just this piece that if I wanted to make a gun, this is the part that gets background checked, or I can make my own and have it be totally legal. For me in particular, illegal for someone else to make it if they're a felon, but will it stop them? I doubt it. But hope you guys have a good day. Comment. Look forward to more discussion.